So we've got a lot to talk to. Pretty exciting draft. First, I just kind of want to talk about the philosophy of the draft. I think we saw this kind of develop on Twitter, especially after that. I think it was really after the second D tackle was taken with the third round pick. I think we got a pretty clear cut analysis of what kind of philosophy this was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they definitely. Brad Holmes wasn't drafting for needs. He was kind of like actually starting here at square one, where you don't draft for needs if your needs extend across the entire roster. So at that point, he just took his favorite guys, guys that would fit his scheme, fit what he was looking for, like character-wise. And yeah, Brad Holmes just got a bunch of his guys. I think that was
yep.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a combination of getting his guys, and I think along with that, obviously, is the best player available. Because there was a lot of debate about that kind of going into the draft. Was like, and especially once we got past like the second round pick was that D tackle, and we're like, man, we have a lot of more needs. Like we have warm bodies at the D tackle position. Like it's not necessarily a position of strength for the Lions, but there are warm bodies there, and that's more than we can say about the linebacking position and the and basically the entire backfield. But like you said, he really just focused on getting genuinely what he thought to be the best player, and a lot of times that also happened to be the most athletic player on the field. And then you look at that, like even watching the tape afterwards, especially on Twitter, like right after it happened, just looking through and watching highlights, they all had the athletic streak going through them. And of course, they're NFL athletes. You're going to expect them to be quite athletic, but I don't know. A lot of them just had that different, that kind of intangible, almost next level. I don't know, especially the first like 3 picks.
Yeah, it was clearly obvious that Holmes is going for size, and he's not trying to win the Super Bowl this year at all. Because if he was trying to win the Super Bowl, he would have done what Patricia and Quinn did, draft team needs, but also draft the wrong player and coach him horribly.
I think I like the little addition at the end there. I know what you're saying though. I agree. Like this showed, and honestly, this is what kind of won the draft for me. Was just that he knows this is going to be a long rebuild. Because you heard, I was a little worried. Sheila Ford was talking about early last season that she thinks this roster can still win a playoff game. They're talking. Quinn Trisha had her convinced that they could actually pull off a decent run in the playoffs with that roster. And there's just no world in which that could have happened. I mean, you put even like a Mike Tomlin or one of those coaches with just a storied background and just can bring it together a locker room. I don't think even they would be able to turn that roster around. So it's good to know that this organization is finally shifting towards, okay, we know this is going to be a deep rebuild. It's not something we can, like you were saying, pick for need right away. And we saw that a lot with Quinn Trisha. We saw that way too often, especially for schemes. It's almost like sometimes they weren't drafting for even positional fit. It was scheme fits. It was so specific.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get into the prospects in a sec, but Onwuzurike was like a defensive, or like he was like a nose tackle in college, but that's just because that's how Washington ran their defense. Like, he's not going to be playing nose tackle at the next level, so they're just drafting him for kind of how they see his skill set slotting into one of their, schematic fits.
Yeah. All right. So it's been talked about to death. I think we hit it on the nail there. It's just the philosophy was best available on the board, not according to the big boards, specifically according to Holmes. I think that's also important to mention because there were times where, at least I think it's a little bit hard to say because people like Mel Kiper kind of take positional value into account when making their lists, so they're not necessarily going to actually put the best player next. But and that's why like you see someone like a defensive tackle, maybe not quite as high as others, even though positionally he's better. Right. So he just picked his guys,